Hello everyone, let's get started. Today we are breaking down our third deep learning laboratory experiment. This exercise focuses on implementing the analysis of images using autoencoders. The script begins by importing several key dependencies from standard machine learning libraries. We import the NumPy library for handling matrix operations. We import the pyplot module from matplotlib to display our visual results later on. Next, we bring in the Amistad dataset directly from TensorFlow Keras datasets. Finally, we import the model class along with the input and dense layer classes from the Keras models and layers modules. This will allow us to build our custom functional network layers. The second section handles loading and pre-processing our dataset. We load the dataset using the load data method. We unpack this directly into our XTrain and XTest image arrays. We then normalize our pixel values. We convert the train and testing arrays to float 32 numbers and divide them by 255.0. This scales our data into a clean range between 0 and 1. After normalization, we flatten our two-dimensional images. We use the reshape method to turn every 28 by 28 pixel image into a single flattened vector of 784 elements. This flattening is done for both our training features and our testing features. The next section constructs our encoder network. We first define an input image layer with a shape matching our 784 features. We pass this into a sequence of 3 dense fully connected layers. The first hidden layer compresses the inputs down to 128 neurons using a ReLU activation function. The second hidden layer shrinks the data further down to 64 neurons using a ReLU activation function. The final encoding bottleneck layer compresses the representation down to just 32 neurons using a ReLU activation function. Right after the bottleneck, we construct our decoder network. The decoder mirrors our encoder layers to expand the compressed values back to their original size. The data passes into a dense layer of 64 neurons using a ReLU activation function. Then it goes into a dense layer of 128 neurons using a ReLU activation function. Finally, the output layer scales the network back up to the original 784 dimensions using a sigmoid activation function. The last part of page 1 instantiates and compiles our model architecture. We create the full autoencoder system by passing our input layer and our final decoded output layer into the Keras model constructor. We then compile the model configuration. We specify the Adam optimization algorithm to handle weight tracking, and we set our objective function to binary cross entropy loss. This section handles model training, image reconstruction, and visual performance tracking. The code begins by launching our model training process using the fit method. We pass our XTrain array as both our inputs and our targets. This is because an autoencoder is an unsupervised network designed to reconstruct its own inputs. We configure the training loop to run for exactly 10 epochs with a batch size of 2 with 56 samples. We enable data shuffling, and we pass our test arrays as independent validation data to measure performance across cycles. Once training completes, the model generates output reconstructions on our unseen dataset. We call the predict method on our trained model instance and feed in our XTest features matrix. The resulting reconstructed pixel values save into a variable array named decoded images. The program then prints a success message to the console logging that the training process completed successfully. The final block of the script uses matplotlib to display our performance visually. We set a local index variable name equal to 5. This dictates that the script will print out comparison figures for the first 5 images. A standard Python for loop handles iterating across these 5 index steps. During every cycle of this loop, the code configures a custom display plot. It initializes a figure container window and targets 2 side-by-side subplots. First, it displays the original input image. It reshapes the 784 vector back into its original 28 by 28 grid structure. It sets the color map to gray, titles the box as original, and turns off axis ticks. Second, it plots the matching reconstructed image output from our decoded images array. It applies the exact same 28 by 28 reshaping grid, sets the color map to gray, titles the box as reconstructed, and turns off axis lines. Finally, the script calls the show method. This displays the side-by-side plots directly on our execution screen, allowing anyone to verify how well our network can encode and compress data arrays. Thank you students for listening this.